an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 4, Episode 1, Voyage of the Damned. In this episode, there are some hosts who are sick and tired of their guests' bullshit and are on a mission to kill all of them. And you know what? As somebody who frequently hosts, I gotta say, I understand. Around the holidays, it's tough. Sometimes you just get a little bit overwhelmed and you just nobody's taking the hint that you're cleaning up and just really need to go to bed. And a little murder is what it takes to clear the place out. And I'm not going to apologize for that. So, welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm never coming to an event at your house.
I mean, it's an event of a lifetime.
The end of a lifetime.
You can only celebrate once.
I am Jamie, BT Dubs.
BT Dubs. So Jamie asked me a question right before we started recording. And I had to be honest with her, and so I'm going to be honest with all of you guys. Jamie, we started off with what you asked me and why. Explain.
I wanted to know if Amazon, because Amazon gives they break Doctor Who into seasons. And for the seasons, they have an image. You have to click on the season to get the episodes. And it's different on different platforms. Like on my smart TV, it looks slightly different than it does on my Amazon Fire Stick. So I wasn't really sure what she was seeing. So I wanted to know if the image for season 4 had any kind of spoiler in it.
And spoiler alert, it does.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Jamie's disappointed that I've been spoiled, which is understandable, because the spoiler, and I'm going to say it, I don't think anybody here is listening who is unspoiled, but they may be, so just warning you, that Donna is in the promo image for this season. Mm-hmm. Now, some of you saw my comment in the group for the previous episode, and I have to be honest with everybody here, and I'm being honest with Jamie as well. This show is like low-key on the chopping block for me right now. I am not loving most of it. There have been a couple episodes that I've liked, but they've been the minority. And part of that I'm realizing, because I was like, have I lost my sense of fun as an adult? Have I lost my capacity to enjoy silly, campy stuff? And I was thinking about Buffy, and I realized that with Buffy, it feels like the campiness is secondary to the main story, which is a young girl growing up and learning how to get through the world despite having way too much responsibility on her shoulders, shit going on with her family, and just generally trying to figure things out, which is a really relatable sort of, situation. I don't really feel like this has something that's a through line like that. Mm-hmm. For everything else to be as campy and silly as it is. There's not that grounding influence of just our water got shut off, which is an actual Buffy episode. There is a problem with paying the bills and their water gets shut off. And I think that's part of the thing for me, is that there's nothing that I can really hold on to here. And that's part of why I focus on whether or not a lot of the science fiction-y elements actually make sense. And because I kind of expected that to be what the show was about. And everyone is assuring me that I don't really need to worry about that because it's not about that. But I can't really tell what it's about other than the Doctor. And he is so removed and distant and not really relatable that I can't really sink my teeth into that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I have to say that I am just sort of like going along here. Like, I have to like have a sort of end point in mind that I'm like, if I don't start to really feel this by this point, I'm going to have to just say goodbye to covering it, because it's got so many seasons and I can't commit to continuing to cover something that I'm really just not feeling, because that's not fun for anybody. It's not fun for me, for sure. It's not fun for listeners who really do love something to just come in and hear me just be like, what the fuck, for 45 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever it may be. But then when I saw that Donna's back, that got me kind of on board again. So the spoiler has worked in our favor this time around. So I'm not going to be too mad about it, even though Amazon fucked up. I don't like that that's like right out there. But what are you going to do? You know, Doctor Who is not something that people seem to come to totally unspoiled a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And Jamie says that this is part of like the original promo material for the show. So it's not like Amazon just decided to be a dick and choose something that they hadn't selected already for this season. But yeah, I just like, I think I finally sort of realized what it is that is making this show so difficult for me, because I tried to come into it with a really open mind about the fact that it was going to be campy and it was going to have a lot of like silliness. And I think maybe Rose's departure and the fact that we then go to Martha, who doesn't really get given any like of her, she doesn't get given an opportunity to do anything beyond just moon after the Doctor. Yeah. I think Rose helped me out in the first 2 seasons with being what I thought was going to be the grounding influence. She's got this boyfriend who, you know, while it's like kind of sad and terrible, it's a real issue that she has to deal with. The fact that he cares about her and is like in weird competition with this being that he will never win against, or that her mother is in trouble, or, you know, that stuff was like helping. And then she went away, and what went on with Martha just felt so like still very much like monster of the week. It didn't feel like it had anything to do with Martha specifically.
Right. I agree.
And I don't really, so I'm kind of like, they may get me back, but right now I'm just sort of in this weird place where I'm like, if I'm not meant to like really worry about the science fiction elements and whether any of this is actually doable, and I don't have anybody that they're really giving me much meat with in terms of character, what am I supposed to care about? Because I don't really feel it.
I think that was a big mistake on the part of the writers for season 3. The stories that they were telling all sort of stood by themselves. Mm-hmm. They end it with this big reveal of the Master when they had these little breadcrumbs in their minds, I think, sprinkled throughout the season, but not really. And they didn't develop Martha beyond a couple of characteristics. She is a doctor, and she has a crush on the Doctor. And that's all they gave us.
Very Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy I mean, look, don't get me
I'm
started
not saying
on Grey's Anatomy. I love it.
I'm not saying characters. I have never seen a single episode of Grey's Anatomy. I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's one of my, like, complete comfort shows. I watch it just to feel relaxed, and I watch it all the time. But there's for Martha, there's just no real character development, and all of the problems that you had with things in that season, like, why am I supposed to be stressed about her family? And, you know, like, I want more so I understand and want to care. Mm-hmm. Like, those are all valid points. When I look back on season 3, even my first go round of watching this show, I wasn't a huge fan of season 3, even though I liked Martha because she's so pretty.
She is very pretty.
And then season 4 wasn't exactly my favorite at the time because I watched this all so fast that I was still sort of heartbroken over losing Rose and Mickey and Jackie and all of that, who I had been really attached to. Rewatching, I still forgot most of the episodes of season 3. Mm-hmm. And really loved season 4 the second time I watched it. And now I've watched it 3 or 4 times, and it's one of my favorite seasons. And I do think you're going to really like it because well, first of all, Donna's just a completely different type of character.
Mm-hmm.
And so that lends itself in a really positive way. But also, I just think that the stories I tell are more interesting. And I don't know what happened on season 3. It's like everyone took a nap.
It really does just kind of feel like they phoned everything in, that nobody was really like that interested.
It's like the whole season was written by an AI bot.
I was about to say, it feels like there was like a Mad Libs, and they were like, I don't know, put a monster name here, put a weird like function of the sonic screwdriver that we didn't know about here, and we'll just, whatever, at the like the Family of Blood, that I enjoyed because that was giving me some real character stuff. The problem being, it was giving me character stuff about a character that winds up vanishing. That just winds up so not mattering. And I was hopeful that the Family of Blood introspection was going to wind up being something that the Doctor internalized a little bit and investigated, like who exactly he was and why this other version of himself reacted to the idea of being him again in the way that it did, which was just with horror and like, I don't want that for my life. But it doesn't actually like mean anything, as it turns out, which is too bad. Because I really was like, I thought that they were going to address some stuff that I've been frustrated by regarding who he is.
Nope.
But yeah, nope. Indeed.
Not in that season anyway. And I'm not an expert, so I can't remember like details from later seasons very clearly right now, but I do feel like the storytelling, the type of storytelling does evolve. Mm-hmm. It just, none of that evolution happened in season 3. And maybe it got better because season 3 just ends up to be like a flop. Yeah. There's just no bones to it. It's just empty.
No bones to it. Gotta get some of that skelegro going on in here, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Harry's dead arm. Just nothing there. It's just flop.
It's so insulting. It's a real flaccid season is what we're saying.
I just feel bad because
the narrative thrust we were looking for.
I feel bad because I think that Freema is a really interesting actress. I've seen her in other things, and I don't know details, so I don't know if she was only ever contracted to do one season or if she was like, hey, this one season's enough for me. Mm-hmm. Because she was never really given anything to do. Yeah,
I mean, none of my problems with season 3 have to do with her acting. Like, she has always been excellent, even when it did not deserve excellent. Like, she just always brought it. And it's purely the writer's faults that they just had. They wrote somebody super interesting and smart and then just made her this, like, moon-eyed teenager. Even though she's a fucking grown-ass adult woman who's, like, in grad school. Like,
when I would look back on that season, all I could remember about Martha was that she mooned after the Doctor for the whole season, and that at the end she got to be the hero of the story, kind of. But like, she was never given remotely what Rose was ever given.
Yeah,
she didn't have the kind of agency that Rose got to have. She was just a bystander in everything.
That's really because I've seen a couple of people talk about her saving the day and that they were surprised that I didn't like that better. And the thing is that it doesn't feel earned when what she does doesn't have anything to do really with who she is. Like,
she's doing exactly what she was told to do.
Yeah, exactly. She's out here like following orders, which you could have any companion that is devoted to the Doctor doing this. And it's not dependent on her knowledge. It's not dependent on like things that she has learned as a person. There is nothing about her saving the day that feels specific to her as a person and a character. It's just what the script needed and they gave it to her. And I really have started to see the difference with that in terms of a lot of different stories where it feels like they want to have this woman character in a variety of different movies and TV shows pretty much be like a damsel until they need somebody to be a deus ex machina, and then they try and act like making her the deus ex machina is canceling out being a damsel, which is not how that works. And I'm not trying to say that she was a damsel, but I am saying that they having her be constantly fawning over him and desperate for his attention is a kind of a damsel-y thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Also
it's
having
just sort
it
of reductive.
Was there were very few episodes that went by where she didn't sulk because he was paying more attention to someone else.
Exactly.
And
So,
when you have an
I don't
introduction of a character where she's super excited that this crazy thing happened and she ended up on the moon, and also it's established that she is a doctor herself, or on her way to being a doctor, there was so much potential that they just wasted. Like, why make either of those things a factor in her introduction if you're going to take them away and just have her be this girl with a crush?
Yep.
For the rest of the season. It's just unfortunate, and I really wish that I had been like, let's just double up on every episode so we can get through season 3 fast.
That was actually something that I was going to suggest, and before I saw that Donna was back this season, I was like, should maybe we try and speed up the coverage, and that will get us into stuff that people seem eager for a little bit sooner. Because guys, I warned y'all. I tried to tell you that I had seen 1 or 2 episodes of this, and I did not feel like I was going to really like it, and I didn't want to put you all through having to watch me tear down something that y'all really like. And it was years of people asking, and I finally was like, well, enough people like this. And they're all people that like a lot of the same things that I do, and we're not far enough into it, and I'm not trying to say that y'all were wrong, but I'm saying that at this time, I have not been shown anything that discounts the fears that I had in the beginning. And I just want y'all to know that I don't like to shit on things that you like. So it bums me out to have to come to a recording and just be like, ugh, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to fucking rant for an hour and a half, which is what happened with the finale.
Yeah, but it wasn't just you with the finale. I didn't like it either.
Yeah, and that definitely helps.
And I think that if I loved things about this season more, I would have been a more enthused co-host and tried to get you to see the things that I liked, or try to, bring you over to my side a little bit. At least I would have a reason for well, but this is how I see it. Why don't, it could have been a more lively discussion, but for the most part, I felt the exact same way you did. I don't love season 3. I do really like season 4.
It makes me feel better that you feel the same way, because that gives me some hope that things are going to improve in a way that will matter to me also.
Yeah, and I have a sneaking suspicion that with the next regeneration, when that happens, that you might end up liking that doctor more than this doctor. Many, many people do.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went out to dinner with some friends of Owen's because it was his friend's wife's birthday, and they're huge Who fans. And Owen mentioned that I was covering it, and I felt so bad because they were both like, "Oh my God, are you?" And I was like, "Yep." And they were like, "So what?" And I was like, "I just finished season 3, and it was not good, and I just kind of spent an hour yelling, so I'm probably not the one." And they tried to argue with me for a little bit, and I just got so incensed and argued way too hard the way that I do when I start to get really fucking serious about a thing. And they brought up inevitably the scene with what's her face that I keep on yelling about, where he says no second chances, but then apparently we're supposed to give second chances.
Oh, the Harriet Jones thing?
Yes.
That But that's the hill you're going to die on with Whovians, I'm sure.
I mean, it's just like, what?
Yeah. No.
Because it's like the first Tennant episode as well.
Yes.
So they said something about, I don't even remember how it came up. And I was like, they were going to enslave the entire human race. Like, I was like ranting at the fucking table like a lunatic. And they were flying away. I was like, he kicked him off a fucking cliff. Like, it was just this crazy sounding conversation. I was just so angry. And, one of them was like, said something about like, isn't he fun though? And I was like, he just comes into wherever and just says that things are going to happen a certain way. And everybody just does what he says. Who the fuck is he? Why does everybody listen to him? Just because he's so clever and he has a thing. And they were like, you're really not going to like season 10. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm even going to get to season 10, but just probably stop talking about it to me.
Yeah. I would say let's get through season 4, which I am hopeful that you'll enjoy more. Then between season 4 and season 5 is a weird thing, and then season 5 is, I think, what most of the people I know that's what they really want to get you to, is season 5. I wanted to get you to season 4 specifically after you really, really loved Donna. I was like, oh, good.
Donna the hot mess.
So
she's so funny. I'm so looking forward to seeing her again. I really am.
Good.
I hope that I hope that she's the Donna that I remember. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's talk about this Christmas episode, this weirdo Christmas episode.
Yeah.
This is a bizarre one in which the worst people wind up staying alive to the end, which is very true to the actual Titanic sinking. So I guess that's we're on brand.
Yeah. Do you know about my my fascination with the Titanic?
I don't think so.
I've been really fascinated by the Titanic since I was a little kid. I've read lots of books about it, watched many documentaries, definitely watched the James Cameron movie hundreds of times. That's one of the movies that if it's on, I'll watch it from whatever point it's in. I don't care. Judge me. Love it. I have a coloring book that I got at one of the mansions in Newport. I went to the Astor Mansion to do a tour there in Newport, Rhode Island, and John Astor was a survivor from the Titanic because he's a rich asshole and jumped on a boat. And there is a coloring book that was in the gift shop of the Titanic, and I had to have it, and my mom was like, I don't understand you. How are you my kid? And I was like, Mom,
oh my God,
it actually shows people jumping off of the boat. I have to have this.
Oh my God.
It's amazing.
You little ghoul.
I'm weird, but I'm like, I love everything to do with the Titanic. It makes me sad, but I'm also, it's just such the epitome of arrogance to call something unsinkable, and on its first voyage it hits a fucking iceberg because
it's like a Greek myth.
They had to prove how dominant they were by going faster and faster through a fucking ice field. Like, everything about it there was no way it wasn't going to sink.
Yep.
And then I just think about all those poor people, literally poor people who died. It makes me sad, but also I'm just obsessed with it.
It's a real good analogy for capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So this, I love this too, just because, like, look, it's the fucking Titanic in the sky, and it also crashes, and lots of people die, and it sucks, and then the terrible, terrible rich people get to live, and the wonderful girl who just wanted to see the world dies.
Yep.
You know who she is, right?
Steerage. What's that?
You know who she is, right? You recognize her?
I vaguely recognized her. I don't like know her name or what she was in or anything. Why? Well, who is she?
That's Kylie Minogue. Are you too young to know who Kylie Minogue is?
I know the name, but who?
She's a singer and an actress. She's from Australia, but she had like a few big hits in the 80s, and then in the 90s she had that na 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 na. You know that song?
Na na na, I just
Can't get you out of my head. Yeah,
Boy,
that's Kylie.
your loving is all I think about. Yeah, it's a bop. All right.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Cool.
Kylie Minogue. She's so cute.
Yeah, she's pretty adorable. Can I ask, so we start off this episode with like the TARDIS landing somewhere, and then the Titanic like life preserver drops down?
The TARDIS took off from Earth at the end of the last episode, and then this ship crashes into it.
Crashes into it.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
So apparently there's some like little charity short that aired between the last episode of season 3 and the Christmas special that gives some allusion to the fact that the TARDIS's shields were not down, and that's why this ship was able to sort of bump into the TARDIS, and it like because the shields weren't down, it kind of broke in, and that's why one of the life preservers ended up on the floor of the TARDIS.
Gotcha.
I never saw that. A lot of people were asking if we were going to watch it. I didn't think it was necessary because I didn't even know it existed until recently, and it didn't affect my viewing of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But that is why, and he like fixes it. He realizes like there's a breach in the TARDIS wall, and he like regenerates the wall.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, that was the part that I was like, I didn't know that this could even happen the way that it does. But that all makes sense. And yeah, and I was also like, you know, the box, as far as I was aware, like I didn't think that, not just hitting the way that it would, because we have wound up places because the box decides that we want to be there. Mm-hmm. But I was like, the way in which it hit, I thought that was meant to signify that something had gone wrong with it, and it's just okay, cool.
It's just usually the TARDIS has its own little protector to keep it from bumping into things, and those little protectors weren't on. The shields weren't up, so it bumped in. So I guess in a way, it's almost like the TARDIS was the iceberg-ish.
Oh God, shut up! I hate you.
But then he fixes the TARDIS and then like has it materialize inside the ship so that he can see what's going on.
Right. And when he comes out, because I really thought that it was the real Titanic, that he'd gone back in time. I was like, and I kept thinking, how are they going to play this? Because we know what happened. So it's not like we can watch him save everybody, because we all know everything else that's been historical. It's been like, well, who knows? This could have happened because we aren't really sure behind closed doors, yada, yada, yada.
Right. And also there are fixed moments in time that you can't change.
Right. So I was like, how are they going to do this? Is he just going to have to stand by and watch as everybody fucking dies? Like, that's pretty brutal. And then it turns out...
Sorry. He does say to Rose, like in passing, that he had been on the Titanic.
Oh, that's right. He does.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. But then he like comes out. It turns out that this is a whole other, Titanic that's a spaceship. And I was like, oh, duh. Okay. I didn't even think of that. And then he just pretty much has to watch as everybody fucking dies anyway.
Yeah.
That's really what happens. It's like there are, 4 survivors, including him, at the end.
Yeah.
How many people were originally on this ship? Like 1,000?
They don't say.
There was a lot. It was a big ship when you see it from the outside a couple of times, the shots of it. It's fucking very, very huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like, this is probably the destruction of the Earth doesn't happen, but this is probably the most casualties that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Other than maybe, like, all of the people that wound up going to Utopia, which I don't really count.
Yeah.
you know, because I was pretty much like the entire human race.
I guess.
But, you know, what are you going to do? But I guess we rewound that, so that didn't exactly happen.
Well, I don't know. They were from the future, so.
Oh, yeah, that's true, huh? Yeah, that whole thing, I don't get how that worked out. But yeah, I kind of like, this was really tough. I just didn't expect as many people to die as died.
It's a crazy story to tell as your Christmas tale.
Right? Like, and granted, there's like some beautiful themes of love and sacrifice and whatever, but really in the end, it's just like the worst people sometimes survive. You don't get to pick. And, you know, Merry Christmas. It's like, oh shit, okay.
Enjoy your credit card with £1 million on it.
Right, yeah. Which, I mean, £1 million, I'm hoping that, like, the credit card functionality is a little bit different than it really is, because in credit, you can really only do so much. Nobody's going to let you buy an apartment on credit. Right?
That's true.
Like, you can use it for restaurants and clothes and things like that, but I don't think they let you pay your utilities with a credit card.
Sure you can.
Can you?
There's
so many things that I have tried to pay with credit when I was really broke, and they were just like, no, we don't accept that. And I
use a debit card. I don't use a credit card, so I guess
that's what I
different.
mean. Yeah, like I'm hoping that they're calling it a credit card, but really it's a debit card. Is what I'm saying.
Where's the bank? This dude is from some other planet, kind of, I guess, concurrent to the Earth.
But if it was just like something generic like World Bank, and it's like it totally exists because it's just so nothing a name that it actually, yeah, that's legit. So we have the reveal of the fact that this is actually like a spaceship. I enjoy the Doctor like really not knowing where he is, because there are some times where he is able to tell where he is, even though there's like nothing to our eye that's really discernible. Mm-hmm. And I like him like looking out the window and realizing and just being like, right, pretty much at the same time that I as a viewer am saying right, because I'm realizing like what they've decided to do here. And the Titanic is now in orbit above Sol 3, also known as Earth. Population, human. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Christmas, which is pretty much guaranteed going to be the thing that I say at our next Christmas party after I've greeted everybody.
Before you kill them, but after you've greeted them.
Yeah, before I kill the giant iceberg that I'm keeping in the fucking my garage. I'm just chuck an iceberg in the living room. I have one human-sized hamster ball that fits 2 people. You guys are going to have to squabble amongst yourselves for who's going to get in there and be saved. And good luck. May God have mercy on your soul. Merry Christmas. Okay. So it looks really cool from the outside, though, because it's just really like made to look like a Titanic ocean liner, but with some like jets at the bottom, which I'm here for, frankly. And it doesn't seem like that out of the... I mean, aren't they working on creating an actual replica of the Titanic for cruises as
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is just a bad idea.
It really
Can
does
we
seem
pick
like
the terrible people that are going to get to be on it and make sure there are not any lifeboats this
that would
time?
make
Just let
you a
everyone
monster,
die.
Jamie. You don't get to pick, evidently.
But I really want to pick who gets to die this time.
I want to pick who gets to die. End of sentence.
This is why I have like a list in my head of if I ever become a vampire, who are the people I'm going to kill first?
Ooh, who are the people you're going to kill first?
Probably most of the American government.
I like it. I can get down with this.
Yeah, I don't really have any personal enemies because I'm very good at cutting people out. Like,
I don't
I'm
have
done.
any personal enemies because if people dislike me, they're usually afraid enough of me to not let me know that.
I cut out all the most of the toxic people from my life, so as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist. So why would I bother wasting my energy to kill them? They don't exist. They're already dead to me. But the people who are still like destroying the world, I would gladly use my vampire skills to hurt them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but you'd have to like get some sort of contingency where, especially if they were wealthy, you manage to have it set up that money goes to like someplace good. You know, you'd have to. Yeah. Could you like blackmail them into like signing things over and changing their assets and whatever?
Well, if you're the right kind of vampire, like say a vampire like the ones in the Vampire Diaries, they have this great skill. It's called compulsion, where they can make people do things just by looking at them in the eyes, and then their eyes dilate and they tell them to do stuff. So that's what I would do. I would hope to be that kind of vampire where I could tell all these rich people, you're going to sign all of your money over to these organizations that will save the world, and then I'm going to kill you.
I like that. Do you remember in True Blood where Bill Compton is trying to like put the whammy on what's her name? Sookie?
Sookie.
Sookie. Name. Sookie.
I only watched the first season of that show, so probably not.
He doesn't realize that like it doesn't work on her for whatever reason. And so he says to her really softly, and that music is playing that happens. It's like all dreamy, and he's like, "Can you feel my influence?" And she just gives him this very serious look and then bursts out laughing, and he looks so fucking embarrassed. And it is just such a good moment because Bill just takes himself too goddamn seriously. Let's be honest. So any time that I get to see Bill be a little bit humiliated, I'm pretty much here for it. So what I'm saying is you got to hope that you don't wind up with a Bill situation, that you're trying to compel somebody and then they just laugh in your face and like beep for security.
Look, if you were trying to compel someone like Donald Trump, do you think he has the brain capacity to be unable to fall into your influence?
Is he even worth compelling?
Well, yes, because I want all of his shit given to the people who deserve it, like the families of migrants that have been put in concentration camps.
Oh, okay. So you're assuming that he has stuff. I just keep assuming that he's bankrupt.
Oh, well, that probably is true, but then I would just influence him to, like, publicly shame himself.
Nice. All right, I'm down for that.
And then I would kill him with my vampire teeth.
Like how we're just talking about fucking assassinating the president on this podcast?
If I were a vampire,
and we haven't even gotten 10 minutes into the episode of the television show we're supposed to be talking about, but we can definitely get in depth about the ways that we would blackmail and murder the president of the United States. No problemo.
If we were vampires, that is just NSA. If we were vampires.
NSA. We know that you listen to this show every week. They got their eyes on the nerds. All right, so we get our first hint that shit is not okay because the captain, Hardaker, is telling everybody that it's Christmas. Why don't you guys go have some rum? But there is an adorable little dude played by Russell Tovey, who is one of my faves always. Every time he shows up in anything, he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
His
name
really is Midshipman Frame?
Alonzo Frame.
It says midshipman.
Yeah, midshipman is that's his rank.
Oh, okay. Because he's like later on when the doctor asks what his name is, he says midshipman to him too. So yeah, I was like, does everybody just have crazy ship-related names in this world?
No, that's like there's the captain and he's a midshipman. He's just a lower level.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and his first name is Alonzo, and then last name is Frame, which is weird.
Alonzo. It's pretty good. He doesn't look like an Alonzo, but that's all right.
What was his name on Being Human? He's so good on Being Human.
Toby?
Yeah.
I think.
Toby?
Yeah, I thought it was Toby. I might be wrong about that.
I really need to rewatch that. But guys, watch Being Human, the British version, if you haven't. It's so good.
Yeah, he's excellent. That was the first thing I ever saw him in, and I had like a bit of a crush on him for a minute, but then, you know.
But then you saw Aidan Turner, and
yeah.
there's never been a hotter person in the history of the world.
Yeah. Guys, look, I'm just, yeah. I'm not going to talk about it again. I feel like somebody made a comment about the number of times that I've talked about how hot he is, so I'm just going to restrain myself. But if you want some of him with no shirt on out in the fields doing sweaty work, watch Poldark.
Yeah, Poldark.
There's a whole lot of it. Yeah. Custom, and it's also like, you know, a period piece, so he's got all kinds of really beautiful clothing and yada, 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 yada. So, back to this, which we just can't seem to get through. So, this little frame dude stays behind because it is policy that there needs to be at least 2 people on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And this captain is trying to get him to leave, and he's really not taking the hint that this is like, you know, a fucking bad sign that this guy is trying so desperately to get him to go. And we find out later that the captain was assured everybody on board was going to be like people who were older and had a lot of like time under their belts, and that they wouldn't be super young. And the problem with that for me is that they are probably just old enough to have like wives and families to provide for, you know, mm-hmm. like so it's so much worse in a way to me because there are people that like depend on them. And sure, it sucks when a young person dies because they have all this potential that winds up getting wasted. But you're robbing children of their parent, you know? Like, that's so much worse to me. Is not the life that was snuffed out, but that is gone and doesn't know what it's missing. But the people who are remaining behind and are bereft now because of what you did. So, I don't know. I feel like wanting people who are like on the older side, they were none of them his age. They were all, you know, 30s and 40s. Yeah. It's just like worse. But anyway, then we get our first look at Max. What's his name? His last name?
Capricorn, I think.
That's right. The way he says his name. My name is Max. Dude, you need to calm down.
You need to relax, Max.
He keeps on trying to say it like it's a really great punchline. You know, like, because he's like mm-hmm. fastest, farthest, whatever. Like, obviously, the joke is supposed to be maximum distance, maximum speed, whatever. But it really isn't really, like, a good joke at all. It's barely a joke, actually. Like, it took me a minute. I hope I'm not alone in that. What I'm saying is that his marketing could use some work. And just give me a call, buddy, because you need some help here. It's
No, you don't need to help this guy. He doesn't seem like a great person.
That's fair.
Not a person.
Yeah, he's a filthy cyborg, which apparently is a thing this world hates. So then we meet the hosts, which are there are so many creatures like that are clockwork like this. These are robots, but they look super vintage. Like mm-hmm. they have the look of a sort of Art Deco angels that you would find for like a mantelpiece decoration.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool looking. I got to imagine that this is a somewhat common cosplay because like
I'll have to look it up.
It looks really I'm not going to say it looks easy to do. You'd have to like sculpt this, and that's a huge pain in the ass. But it does look sort of like easy to wear because you could just do a mask and you wouldn't have to do a ton of makeup and stuff like some of them would require. And I really enjoy costumes that you can just take on and off and you don't have to do a ton of like body prep in order to wear. But the doctor is talking to this host and asking it for information, which is supposed to be part of like what they're for, getting information about when events are happening, where we're headed, when we're going to arrive, all that stuff. So he's asking like, where did this ship take off from and where are we going, and like basic stuff. And this host starts to completely short circuit and lose it. And we find out from the talk amongst the gentlemen downstairs after they take it away that this is one of 8 so far today that has begun to malfunction. And I guess this is supposed to be like the other programming interfering, like starting to take over.
Yeah, maybe.
Is that right? I couldn't remember if it was like that the programming was already there and it was coming through and causing them to malfunction this way, or if it was that they're being sent to repairs and somebody in repairs is like infecting them with a virus or something like that. Is either one of those?
Well, I figured that there was some sort of programming that was kicking in at a certain, maybe it was something that was with whatever the captain is doing to crash this ship also sets off some kind of programming, but they never really explain, like, are they malfunctioning because they're fighting against this programming, or are they malfunctioning they're not actually malfunctioning, they're just this new program override is kicked in.
All right, well, I guess it doesn't matter. And this is when the doctor meets the waitress, who is being abused by a terrible dude in true "can I speak to your manager" fashion. He is a recognizable customer to anybody who has worked in the service industry at all. The combination of doing something thoughtless and then blaming you for it, and then insinuating that you have the job you have because you're too stupid for any other types of work, and then walking away with the indignant, like, assuredness that I'm going to speak to somebody about this and I'll have your job kind of thing. It's a real trifecta. And I am constantly astonished by how many people are willing to admit that they are this person on social media. Have you seen this sort of thing? There are a couple of pages that I follow, or groups on Facebook, where people share posts, and it's always older people, I think, because they don't realize how it works, that if you post something to a company's like Facebook page, it's public. Everybody can see it and they can share it also. So there was somebody who was posted on like a Springfield, Illinois Target's Facebook page that we got there and you had only been closed 5 minutes and they wouldn't open the door and I am never going back there again. These kinds of things where they literally expect these people to come and unlock the door and let them in because they're that special and important. And they're out here throwing a fit on social media thinking that they really are going to make Target think twice about losing such valuable customers. Guys, nobody wants you, and you should leave and never ever come back, because like the whole "I will take my business elsewhere" is exactly what we want to hear. When you're like this, you're terrible. Please take your business elsewhere.
Also, like, that example really pisses me off because I work in retail, and when the door is locked, you are 5 minutes late. Well, we are closed 5 minutes ago. We are closed 30 seconds ago. Sorry, I just locked the door. Too late. You could have come in a minute ago and I would have been obliged. I would have to help you. But
and it's people who have never worked service who don't understand, like,
Yeah.
it's not just that they have to open the doors. Somebody's going to have to go into the safe and get another drawer back out and count it up and boot the system back up.
We will not do
that. Get out of here.
You need to manage your time better and get places when they're open. That's
and
like...
it's always people like that accuse others of being really
Yes.
entitled. And I'm just like, how? Guys,
Yeah.
seriously.
It's also people like that just don't have any kind of self-awareness whatsoever.
Well, that's what I mean about
Which is
them.
why
They'll
they post on
this
those groups.
Facebook, and
Yeah.
they're just like... So I have a couple of groups. One of them is, I would unplug this person's life support to charge my phone, which is a personal favorite. And they will share those on there, like just particularly bad ones that are people throwing tantrums over stuff that is so hilarious.
Do you remember how a few years ago there was a thing where with companies on Facebook, there would be responses from, quote, customer service?
Yes, and they were like fake Facebook pages for things.
Yeah, my friend Ryan was actually somebody that was doing that for a while. He was hired because he's really funny to be one of the customer service response people. So every once in a while he'll share, like, from the good old days, some of the examples of things that he responded to, which are pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, like, there was a company that does food prep stuff, and it sends you, like, fully made meals that you just microwave. And they had gotten my attention, and I was, like, looking through comments to see if anybody had said whether or not it was any good. And there was some guy who commented something really, like, shitty and basically irrelevant. And the guy who replied, like, he said something like, you should do such and such instead of this and that because the macros are better or fucking whatever, you know? And the customer service person responded basically with, where would we be without your crucial input? And was just so, like, fucking snarky. And I legit signed up for it purely based on the fact that they were that much of a dick. I was just really impressed. And you know what? The food's been amazing, and I'm still a customer because they were just like, they handled that shit, and I was just like kind of admiring it. So it pays, is what I'm saying.
Literally.
It does.
Yeah.
So okay, he meets this waitress, and
her name is Astrid.
Her name? Astrid? Okay, yeah, Astrid.
Astrid.
Do you remember that from The Office? Michael gets it on a cake. Well. So, yeah, she tells him about how, you know, she's always wanted to travel, and you can see him really, like, loving the fact that she can't even quite put to words what it is that she's looking for, but he totally understands because that's how he also feels.
Mm-hmm.
And then he confesses to her that he's a stowaway, which I loved. I really didn't expect him to just, like, be totally honest about the fact that he's just, like, got no money, shouldn't be here. But I love that he did, and that she is not horrified, but rather a little bit impressed. And it is very endearing to me. And her being like, I should report you. And
she's like, I'll get you a drink on the house.
Yeah. The face that she makes. Seriously. So yeah, this was an auspicious beginning, and I'm still angry that she's dead. Or a force ghost or whatever it is. But
force ghost.
So the doctor decides, first he goes over to this couple. It's super weird to see because this couple is wearing like really gaudy purple versions of like cowboy outfits because they were lied to and told that it was a fancy dress ball.
Kind of like in Bridget Jones.
Yes, exactly. She didn't... Oh, don't worry. She also didn't get the notice that the Vickers and... What is
Tarts
it?
and Vickers.
Tarts and Vickers was
Tarts
off.
And Vickers.
The woman looks up and says, oh, yes, I did. And then she has to stop and go, oh, I love your dress. So exotic. But yeah, this couple looks so much like they're about to speak in a Southern accent. And they don't, because they're British. And it keeps throwing me off. But I enjoyed them a great deal. And I was so sad about what happened to them.
Their names are Morven and Foon. Of
course they are.
Van Hoff. Last name Van Hoff. But yeah, they're endearing. I like them both. And I also like that, there's these rich assholes that are just making fun of them because of how they're dressed. And these two are like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. We won these tickets. We're going to eat the shit out of these buffalo wings. And the doctor is like, and then just uses his sonic screwdriver to, like, make the champagne explode.
In the guy's face, all over his suit. Ha! The suit that we had heard earlier is an Earth antique. Genuine Earth antique.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very gratifying. And I love her, like, they're going in on the wings. Like, this is a real, actual cruise ship moment. Mm-hmm. She's just like, look at all these wings.
I like that she says, buffaloes must have what did she say? Something about how they must be huge with all these wings.
Yeah, exactly. Bless her. I like the idea that they're serving, like, Earth delicacies that nobody's ever had before. Yeah, it's a delicacy, just like Baby Got Back is classical music. What?
God, I'll have to let my dad know that all those wings that he used to cook, that makes him fancy.
So, let's see. Oh, yeah, then we get another look at the bridge where the captain is acting super duper weird, and there's a couple of, like, meteors that are heading their way, and he just doesn't seem to be trying to get out of the way or do any of the things that he's supposed to do to avoid this. And what's his name? Frame is starting to get more and more agitated and trying to make sense of what it is by saying, like, oh, you want to give the guests a bit of a light show? And the dude can't even just be like, yep, that's what it is. He's just like, something like that. With the fucking most sinister look on his face. And it winds up, like, coming down to him shooting the kid to get him to not interfere. Because he keeps trying to, like, get the shields up and fix everything.
Yeah. Like, do his job.
Right, exactly. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Astrid go on a little jaunt down to Earth because he draws her in as his +1 and falsifies a ticket to get a, like, bracelet that teleports him and her down to London streets at Christmas time. And he hears, before they go down, there's some guy who's, like, talking about Earth history. He says that he has an Earthology degree, but everything he says is really amazingly inaccurate. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite, like, jokes
Earthonomics.
Earthonomics, that's it. One of my favorite jokes in anything that has to do with like time travel or science fiction is the misinterpretation of things that we know very well and that are very familiar to us because there's been such a passage of time or because the people talking about it are so unfamiliar. And this, like, talking about they always go to war with Turkey and they eat all of the residents and they worship a god called Santa that has huge claws.
Married to the Virgin Mary.
It's so great. I love this stupid stuff. This is like in the most recent Fallout, I believe, there's like a gang that bases everything they do on baseball, which they think was a really brutal game in which you, like, went onto a diamond and, like, beat each other with bats. So there's this, like, whole gang and sort of, like, quasi-religion based around this, like, fictionalized game of baseball that they all think was essentially a gladiator-esque fight to the death. And there's all of these jokes throughout about the, like, misinterpretations of different pieces of equipment and different rules or turns of phrase. And it just, like, never ceases to make me giggle. The way that, you know, writers just have to sit down and be like, all right, what do we have them think a home run is? It's like literally running away, you coward. Home runs were bad. So yeah, I enjoy this and how it's just like a gift that keeps coming up. You know, he keeps on making, like, really weird suggestions and assumptions. And what's so funny is that, like, this isn't in the future enough that this is at all justified.
I don't think it's in the future.
That's what I mean. It's like, it's not something that, like, time, in the mists of time, they can't tell anymore what it was really like. This guy just doesn't know what he's talking about and could easily find out and get real information, but just doesn't. He just makes up whatever, I guess.
My favorite one was when he says that they need to be careful because the people are going to start boxing any day now.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. So stupid. So they go down there, and it turns out that the people of London have learned a thing or two, because they realize that you don't want to be on the streets of London at Christmas time lately. Shit just tends to go down. So we're going to get our asses out of town and maybe go abroad for Christmas this year. Head to Spain, maybe the Maldives. Just get out into the country, if anything. And the only person that's stayed is this one homeless dude who
He's not homeless.
Isn't he? I thought he was sitting there with like a...
No, he's got the newspaper stand.
Oh, do you know what? I thought he was just hanging out amongst a bunch of old newspapers.
No,
I didn't even know that was a proper stand. Listen, this guy has the hat and the fingerless gloves, and he's sitting inside what looks like a huge cardboard box. I had no idea. And there's bags of garbage all around it.
I don't remember the bags of garbage. Right now.
It doesn't look like it's... This doesn't look like a legitimate business. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, the fingerless gloves and the scarf and whatever. It's Christmas. It's London. It's cold. So
I'm going to take a screenshot of this so that you can see what I'm talking about. I enjoy that every episode there's at least one moment in which I'm like, Jamie, I'm screenshotting this because you're saying one thing and I'm seeing another thing with my own two eyes.
Well, he's not. He is like the proprietor of that stand, which I guess it looks like a giant cardboard box to you, but
yeah, I just sent it to you because it really does. It looks like the kind of thing that you would have had at like the school science fair. Those like foam trifold stands that you like. Looks kind of like that to me.
I also sent you I couldn't find any cosplay of the hosts. Lots of weeping angels, but none of the hosts. But I did find a very well decorated cookie. So I sent you a picture of that.
Oh my God, that's a cookie? That is bananas. Yeah, I can eat that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There are these trash bags around, but it's not a cardboard box.
It looks like a cardboard box. Listen, it does. But anyway, it's just basically him and the Queen. Everybody else is like, I'm out. No, bye. And the Queen is staying behind to set an example and assure everybody everything is fine. There's no reason to be afraid. And it's kind of amazing because before Christmas is over, like, she's pretty much made it through. But then in the morning, she winds up having to come running out of her fucking palace in her slippers. And it just feels really embarrassing.
Because the Titanic almost hits Buckingham Palace.
You know? But yeah, this, like, whole street, I really enjoyed the joke of the doctor being like, dude, this is gonna cause a riot. You guys just showing up in the middle of like Christmas shopping season. It's gonna be a madhouse down there. Like, what are you doing? And then the street is literally completely empty except for this one guy.
Yeah.
And in the middle of assuring this dude that nothing's gonna happen, that the Queen has probably got it right this year, the doctor gets beamed back up and makes this poor guy go, oh no, as he realizes that some shit is indeed going down. So they wound up getting summoned back early, as it turns out, because there are still more malfunctions happening. And the doctor is starting to get suspicious because nobody's really, like, communicating with each other. There's just a general weird air of, like, what's the word I want? Of just secrecy. And, you know, he has, like, a bit of a spidey sense when it comes to this stuff. And he winds up sort of breaking into, like, the security system via essentially what's, like, amounts to, like, an electronic picture frame on one of the walls, and sees that these ships' shields have been taken down, and tries to alert security. And I'm not entirely sure if security is in on this and trying to shut him up, or if they just think that he's a raving lunatic and they don't want him to alarm the other guests.
I think they think he's being a lunatic. He's not authorized to use their system, and, you know, he keeps trying to break into where the captain might be, or doesn't he, like, take a microphone and try to tell everybody
to go to the lifeboats? Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just like, who is this menace?
He does look a little like Dennis the Menace. He has a bit of that hair flip. Not just in the back, but all over.
His hair does look really good in this episode.
Yeah, and he's got his glasses on for a lot of this one also, which I always approve of.
Yeah.
So,
we haven't talked about the little guy, the little red guy.
Oh yeah, what is his name again?
His name is Banacafalata.
Banacafalata. And the doctor is like, can't I just call you such and such? And he's like, no. I really liked that moment a lot. Especially, there have been a spate of Facebook posts recently about how anybody who doesn't have, like, a white name has stories about being asked to, quote, make it easier on teachers and students by going by a nickname rather than their actual name. And so him being like, can't I just call you such and such? And I was a little bit like, oh, geez. And then when this creature is like, fucking no, this is my goddamn name, I was like, nice. All right.
I worked with this guy named Wanye, and he was like, I'm named after one of the guys in Boys to Men. And I was like, which one? And he goes, Wanye? And I was like, which one is that? Like, I know obviously his name was Wanye, but he said people always want to call him Wayne because his name was spelled Wanya, but they would look at it and be like, it should be Wayne. And so they would call him Wayne, and he'd be like, my name is Wanye. So
they thought it was like a typo.
Yeah. Like, always.
Gotcha.
He said, always his entire life, they thought, like, oh, it's just somebody messed this up, and they would call him Wayne, and he'd be like, that's not my name.
Oh, that's so annoying. Yeah, it's, you know, like, I mean, even the girl from, what is the most recent Star Wars movie? The Asian girl, and she, like, wound up getting driven off social media by a bunch of trolls. And she wrote a post finally and, like, was like, oh, and by the way, this is my actual name. But I don't remember the name that she was going by either, so I'm no help right now.
Kelly.
Yeah. Oh, that's Kelly Tran, I think was
Kelly
what she
Tran.
was going by.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what she said that her name was. But she basically had been using a whole other name for the ease of people, and that's not who she is. And
my friend Anna is Korean, and she goes by Anna, but that is not her name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like, you know, I understand the awkwardness of not knowing how to say somebody's name, and that it can feel really weird and, like, embarrassing if you don't get it even, like, the third or fourth try, because that can happen. But fucking put in an effort, man. Don't make it it's such a chore.
And it's not that difficult. It's really not. Like, if we can say things like antiseptic.
Tchaikovsky, exactly.
Like, we can say these other names, no matter what they are. You just have to want to. And the point is that people don't want to make that effort because it's just supremacy coming out. That's all.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I come across names that I don't know how to pronounce all the damn time with my patrons when I'm trying to like greet new patrons at the end of an episode. But, I do my best, and sometimes they'll message and I'll be like, how do I say it? You know, and a lot of times, shockingly, they're like, you actually were pretty close. And I'm like, I don't know if you're just trying to be nice to me, but thank you. And then there'll be times where they're like, that was so off. Listen, you were so far off. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Well, working at Starbucks, you know, I'll ask people what their name is. And if it's something that doesn't sound familiar, even if it's something that is familiar to me, and there's different ways to spell it, I always ask how to spell it. But if it's a name I've never heard before, I'll be like, how do you spell that? And then they'll tell me, or they'll be like, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, it's your name. How do you spell it? I want to get it right. And if it's something that's particularly unusual, I will actually tell the people at the bar, like, this is how you say this person's name. So that when they call it out, they say it right. Because I think that just shows respect for a human being, you know, like, say their name right, spell it right. It's not that much. It's no effort whatsoever.
I felt so bad recently because, like, it was one of those that I'm like, I'm sure if they saw it, they would have been really horrified. But they emailed me to let me know that they really liked the show, but they called me Natalie like 3 times.
Oh.
And I was really like, how do you do it? And not even like, and it was also Natalie spelled in a really strange way with like 2 L's. And it was the sort of thing that, because initially I was like, maybe it was autocorrect. And then I was like, nope, autocorrect doesn't correct it to that spelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of those
unless they
things,
know somebody with that name and it autocorrects because of that.
Spells it, maybe.
Yeah.
I get called Natalie a lot, though. That does happen all the time.
Really? Well, I guess I'm sure the name Natalie is more common than Natasha.
Yeah, definitely. I went through the entire 3rd grade being called Natalia by my 3rd grade teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also not a common name.
You know, like, and I didn't think Natasha was that hard, but evidently.
Look, I don't think it's that hard to spell my name right. It's 5 letters, but people spell it wrong all the time.
Yeah, although to be fair, it comes in 2 spellings.
Yes, it does.
Because yours is the AI. And the one that I see the most, at least when it's feminine, tends to be AMIE.
Well, that's the most common way of spelling it, male or female.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mine is, my mom thought she was being creative, and it turns out it's Jaime. She didn't know that. Oh. She thought it looked really pretty. She, like, didn't want to spell it the normal way, and so she wrote it out in different spellings and liked this way the best.
That's how Jamie Lannister spells it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you like how we're not talking about this episode, like, almost at all? So,
it's not even that it's an unlikable episode either, guys. Like, other times
it's been over an hour, Jamie.
Yeah. We get distracted with episodes that we have nothing to say about, but I think this is actually it's kind of fun.
It's fun. It's just like, there's a lot of sort of just aimless running around that there really isn't much to be said, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we can skip to where the action actually starts.
Yeah. Okay, well, can we talk about Foon and her husband, Morven? Oh, God, Morven the Mortian. Who... They like wind up working alone on this robot to try and fix it because they are not as of yet aware that the robots are the fucking problem. And she confesses to him that even though technically they did win the tickets for this cruise, she called in to win the tickets 5,000 times, which is the equivalent of what, $10,000?
No, she said it's basically like 1 credit per call. So it basically costs her 5,000 credits in phone calls.
But I'm saying, like, the conversion of, because later on when the doctor's talking about the $1 million.
Right. Well, then way more, because on Earth, $1 million was like $50 million.
Right.
Or 50 million pounds. 1 million credits. So, yeah. So she spent an awful lot of money trying to win this, and said, like, with what I spent trying to win it, I could have just bought us tickets.
Yeah. And he at first is just like so horrified, and she is very ashamed of herself and is waiting for the hammer to fall. And he just starts laughing, which honestly feels like the correct response considering the situation that they are in right now.
Yeah.
And she is mystified and is like, "You're not mad?" And he's like, "Oh my God, you're going to drive me fucking barmy." And then he gives her a big kiss. And that was the most relationship-y moment.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it because, listen, guys, when it comes right down to it, the people that you wind up with are going to make some stupid mistakes. They're going to make some real dumb mistakes.
Yep.
You're both going to do it. And remember, whenever they do make a terrible mistake and you feel like you just want to grab them by the shoulders and shake them and ask them what the fuck they were thinking, there will come a day, and not too long from now, in which you are going to need them to extend to you the grace that you can extend to them now if you choose to. And just keep that in mind, because it may keep you from saying something you'll regret. That's all I'm saying.
Also, when it comes down to it, it's just money. You know, like, nothing is, in this case anyway, and I like that that's why, when he starts to laugh, it just shows, like, well, he loves her more than he cares about how much this is now actually costing.
Right. So, yeah, this was a really nice setup of a couple of characters that made it a lot more emotionally affecting.
Yeah.
When first he goes tumbling off, and that was the fucking worst. I hated it, and her poor face, and her begging the doctor and telling him, "You promised us," and the doctor having to be like, "I know I did." That was the worst. But then it leads to her later, like a fucking boss, just sacrificing herself because she's like, "Fuck it. I need to do what I need to do, and my man's gone, and I'm gonna go jump down there with him, and we're gonna finish this fucking thing." And I was like, that is baller. So, good on you, Foon. That's what I'm saying. So they're my pretty much two favorite characters. And then there's everybody else.
Well, I like the little cyborg, and I like Astrid.
The little cyborg uses his, like, energy inside of his battery, basically?
He basically makes an electromagnetic pulse
right.
that disables all of these robot angels. But doing that basically kills him. He has nothing left. And I like that he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to have that dance with you."
Yeah.
Which is so cute. And, like, on the planet that she's from, that he's also from, they hate cyborgs. They, like, I don't know, I read a piece of trivia that said that they would put them in camps. Like, I don't know where that came from, because I don't remember that being in dialogue. But, they just, like, othered them, you know? Like, they're just not, they're not worthy.
Yeah.
And so he was hiding the fact that he's a cyborg. But right before he does this, he says he's proud to be a cyborg. And she had said to him that, like, no, cyborgs have equal rights now. Mm-hmm. So I guess he hasn't been there for a while. So he then saves them by doing this, which is really sweet.
Yeah, it's a lot of moments of people sacrificing themselves. And then you get, like, the dude at the end who talks about how rich he is now. And,
gross.
Made no sacrifice, and he's totally going to wind up, like, profiting off of the deaths of a bunch of other people. So, cool. Cool.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about like the Titanic.
Sounds about white.
Right. And I'm trying to see, because there are so many, like, weird... These angels, the way that they kill is by taking their halos off, and they become these, like, deadly frisbees, basically.
Little murder discs.
Yeah. And I have to say that there are a lot of times where they, like, everybody just fucking stands there and watches them get ready to make an attack. And I just kept being like, just fucking tackle them. If you knock it over, it's not very easy for this thing to get back up again, and you could just take its halo away. Just take it.
Yeah.
Just fucking do it. And the only person who seems to have any presence of mind in this regard is Foon, who decides to jump off and pull it with her. I don't feel like she had to do it that way. I feel like she could have just dragged it backwards and it could have just fallen, and then she could have pushed it off and then let go of the thing that, like, rope or whatever, and it could have just plummeted by itself. But whatever. The dealing with these things is super weird a couple of times, because then there's, like, you know, once it's the big reveal that Max is the one who set this all up because he's bitter that his company is, like, going down the tubes or something.
Well, they voted him out as CEO because he was basically destroying the company with his business practices. So he was the CEO, and his board of directors fired him.
Right.
So what he is going to do is cause this giant disaster by crashing this Titanic into the Earth, which causes, like, an extinction level event, and then the company itself will have to collapse as well because of all of the damage from this.
Right. Okay, so we have that reveal, and he's the one that's controlling the hosts, the angels.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of times he's like, kill them. And then a person, the doctor or someone else, will just go, wait. And they wait. Now, they're taking orders from one person. They shouldn't just wait because somebody says wait. They're robots. They're not people. And this happens a bunch of times, and it started to irritate me quite a lot. Because just like it's not just wait. There's a couple of moments where it's like there's a level of, like, reasoning or pausing before fulfilling a task that is there obviously for the sake of the plot, but it just isn't how robots operate. So just change the dialogue. Just make it so that he doesn't get a chance to say kill them or whatever. I
think it's because they wanted this to be an hour and a half long with commercials. So there's some, like, dragging out of getting to the end by giving them pause at moments like that.
Gotcha.
And also so that they can have, like, more villain manifesto stuff.
Manifesto, indeed.
Monologuing.
And he's going to go to some fucking island where the women are fond of metal. And I was just like, you know what, dude? I'm going to put you in a fucking trash compactor. I'm going to bring you in one of those car lots.
Yeah, how's that for liking metal?
Ugh, hate him.
Those car crushers, that's good.
And he's so creepy looking too, because it's just his head, because he's cyborg, and, like, he's been like hiding out because of the shame of it and whatever. And also, he has one eye that's gone blind, and the way that they've done it with, like, the makeup, his eye is not only, like, whited out, but it's like an inch lower in his face than it is on the other side. So it's, like, really, like, wild looking. The combination of the effect, it just changes his whole face, and it's really creepy. And I just can't really, because, like, the whole thing with, like, him hiding because he's a cyborg, I really don't buy that. Even if they despise cyborgs the way they supposedly do there, that if you're a rich white dude, you're going to suffer the same kinds of consequences anybody else would. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Like, we just have so much evidence that you can do whatever you want if you have enough money, and nobody's going to say or do shit. It's just a fact of life. But, whatever. It's fine. So
in the end, Astrid sacrifices herself to take this guy down.
Now, I wanted this moment to be less silly than it was, but man, it's silly to me. Mm-hmm. The moment that she turns and looks at the doctor and he says, "Don't," that one got me. Because he really has a look on his face like, oh my fucking God, she isn't. But the moment when she's sitting there and she's pressing on the gas and the wheels are just spinning in place, and then the camera...
Which also goes on for too long.
So long!
Yeah.
And then Max, his like creepy face is leering at her, and it goes back and forth between her face and his face and the spinning tires, and then back to his face and the spinning tires and her foot on the gas and the spinning tires and then his face again. And I could not, because it was just so like, it's not even just like tires spinning and we're sending up a bunch of clouds of dust, and they're really big like truck tires. They're little tiny like golf cart tires.
Well, it's a forklift, so they're little tiny forklift tires.
And there's nothing, because there's no dust, there's no like even burning rubber sort of effect. It's just, it looks like toy tires spinning, and it's just so like silly and goofy looking.
I think this would have been more effective if, when the doctor realizes what she's doing and he says don't, that it very quickly happens after that. Because she sees there's no other way, and she just does it instead of them like doing this thing where they drag it out for too long.
Yeah. Agreed. So yeah, she winds up going over, and for some reason, because the Max is like, the doctor keeps on acting like Max is not going to be able to like turn the engines back on or something, or turn them off. Can't remember exactly what it is that he's trying to do, but he keeps on behaving as if they've got him now and Max can't do anything. And then Max looks at him and is like, bitch, I could do that shit from here. And he does. And I'm not really sure what shoving him over accomplishes.
The doctor says that he's a loser and he can't even manage to sink the Titanic, because the Titanic is still going. Right. Probably because of Alonzo up there. But Max says that he can remotely shut off the engines, which then he does, and the ship starts falling towards Earth. And
that's what it is.
Yeah. And so Astrid then, that's when she comes back, because she teleports in. And then, like, drives him over the edge with a forklift.
Now, why does driving him over the edge get the engines started again?
It doesn't. They're still falling.
Okay.
But then that's when Midshipman Alonzo uses the heat from... This is what my notes say. He uses the heat from the re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere to sort of jumpstart the ship's engines.
That's what the doctor says to him once they've landed. Because they just wind up crash landing.
They didn't actually crash. They almost crashed into Buckingham Palace, but then the engines kick on and they are able to go back up. Right?
Oh, the doctor does that. Because I remember that piece of dialogue, because he's telling Alonzo later that that's what he did. So really, her killing that guy didn't have anything to do with anything.
It just was killing him. Yeah.
That sucks. I hate that.
I think she didn't know
it wasn't
that
even a sacrifice that led to them. Like, they could have just done that anyway.
She didn't know. I think she thought that she was saving the day by like this is going to stop this from happening. But then
that is so much worse. That's so sad. She's like making the sacrifice that she thinks really means something, and it doesn't.
Well, I think that's also why the doctor is so sad about losing her, and then like does that weird thing where he thinks because she had a teleport bracelet on, that means that like her molecules are still there and maybe I can get her back, and he tries to get her back, but it's really just like an echo of her.
Right.
Which is even sadder.
Yeah, that's messed up. And Mr. Copper, is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tells him that he has to let go because that's just like an echo of her consciousness.
Yeah.
So the doctor gives her Force Ghost a kiss and then lets her disperse.
Yeah, the kiss I found to be really cheesy. I think it's Kylie Minogue, and, you know, they probably just wanted David Tennant to be able to kiss Kylie Minogue one way or another. It just feels
out of character for the doctor.
Yeah, it does.
You know?
Like, the only other time that he did something like that was when Rose had all of the power of the TARDIS inside of her, and he took that from her so that she wouldn't, like, basically burn up.
Right.
Because he knew he could take that on and then regenerate. But with Astrid, this is just an echo image of her. It's not even her. So I don't know what kind of magic he puts into that kiss to make her turn into Stardust. But it's fine. It's pretty.
I'm so mad now.
There was a point, I don't remember where it happens, but the doctor asks Alonzo what his name is, and he says Alonzo. And then he says, I've always wanted to say this, Alonzo, which is like a big thing for like Who fans who love 10, is the Alonzo stuff.
Y'all are weird.
Yeah. Alonzo is something he says a lot, but the fact that he got to finally meet an Alonzo is a big deal.
The things like, I always find it funny when you start to get into something that has a huge fandom and the in-jokes that you're like kind of excited to find out about that you knew about ahead of time, or then things like this that you get told are in-jokes and you're just like, there's a million better things in this one episode, like, alone that you could make jokes about. But that's the thing that everybody's like, but, you know, I'm sure that we do that with Harry Potter as well, and people are just like, I guess that wasn't really what I took away from that moment, but okay.
Well, there's lots of things in the Doctor Who fandom that people latch onto that I personally have always been like, I guess, and that was one of them. Like, I like the Alonzi because he's really cute when he first says it, and I think he says that in Doomsday. But otherwise, I was never like, oh, and then Alonzo, that's adorable. Like, it just never even, I was just like, sure.
Yeah, that's a real dad joke. Like, guys, have some standards. Come on. I mean, yeah. Anyway, this girl, that long, drawn-out tire spinning scene, and it doesn't even. Guys, I'm still mad. Oh my god! And it's not even what winds up stopping this. Oh well. So yeah, they almost crash into Buckingham Palace, and then they pull up at the last second. The Queen's outside and wishes him a happy Christmas. And then it's goodbye to everybody, especially the creep who's making money off of this, Rixton Slade, which is amazing. And they goodbye to Mr. Copper, who now has $1 million. £1 million.
Yeah. Yep. 50 million and 56 is the equivalent.
Damn. Well, good for you, sir. Good luck to you.
I mean, that's the equivalent, but in Britain, where he is now stuck, it's $1 million. So it's going to spend like pounds, not like these credits. But I guess it makes him understand how much that might be.
Right, exactly. Just how far that'll go. Because he keeps thinking that it's enough for like a couple of trinkets.
Yeah.
Is what he kept saying. Just a bit of spending money. I thought about $1 million should cover it. Yeah, this dude, like, imagine that you meet a guy who's a millionaire, but he thinks it's called New France. Like, how annoyed would you be?
Great France.
Great France, that's the one.
Great France and Great Germany, and then the doctor's like, nope, just Britain is great. Oh, boy. Sorry, UK listeners.
Honestly,
you are pretty
fucking,
great.
like, what kind of hubris do you have to include something like that in the name of your country? And it's not even, like, colloquially it's known as. That's the fucking name of your country. GB. That really
Why is it called
nerve.
Great Britain? Because the word great probably just meant large or something to start
Sure.
with. Not like, you're great.
But where's Small Britain then?
That's why I'm asking. I don't have the answer. Why is it called Great Britain?
Yeah, Small Britain,
The United Kingdom is the 3-4 countries that are part of. That's what makes the UK. It's Scotland, Great Britain, Wales, and Northern Ireland. But why is it called Great Britain? That's my question.
Guys, gotta give us a little history lesson here.
I'm sure I could find it out myself, but I won't, so tell me.
Yeah. We don't want to go fucking research stuff. We just want to talk shit on the internet. Get out of here. But yeah, I love the idea of some dude out here just having to, like, learn all of the most basic stuff. Like, he's going to be learning, like, first grade geography kind of thing, you know? And there's something kind of adorable about that.
Well, you know what? He'll still probably be better at all of those things than people who spent their entire lives living on the planet.
You know? Like, he's probably going to get a job at Torchwood, I bet. That's what's going to happen. I see him.
So I've got a couple of things. Angels seem to be a recurring theme with this new series.
Yeah.
The Doctor has been referred to as a lonely angel. He has faced the weeping angels, and he made use of the Master's mesmeric communication network, Archangel. So now there's these angel hosts. The scene where the Doctor is lifted into the air by the angels was heavily criticized by Catholic audiences.
Oh, I forgot about that. That is really stupid.
I know that that some listeners were a bit nervous after how much you hated the Jesusification of the Doctor in the last episode, that they were worried how you were going to react to this part, but we didn't even really pay any attention.
Yeah, it was real stupid, but, like, it was such a small... It wasn't the whole episode.
Yeah.
Which was how it was with the last one. So, yeah, I just kind of was like, ugh, whatever, and just let it, like, leave my mind.
And then, let's see, Milvina Dean, who was the last survivor of the Titanic, criticized the episode, claiming it was disrespectful to make entertainment of the disaster. I would like to direct her to a movie called Titanic.
Yeah, did she have that to say about that film?
I don't know. Because that was much more of making that disaster into an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
This was Kylie Minogue's first major acting appearance since her diagnosis and recovery from breast cancer 2 years earlier.
Cool.
She was a film and TV actor before she became a singer and had made occasional film appearances since launching her musical career. David Tennant's mother died near the start of production of this episode, requiring the crew to shoot around him during his consequent absence. So maybe that's why some things got a little more airtime than they normally would have.
Huh. Okay.
So they had to fill in some time. And then The Sun, which, you know, is like a major tabloid in the UK, released a report claiming that Albert Einstein would be in this episode, played by Woody Allen.
What?
Thank fucking God that didn't happen. I don't know where they would get a rumor like that. I don't know. Because also, like, no one would cast Woody Allen to play Albert Einstein, regardless of the fact that he's a little tiny troll Woody Allen, but no one would do that. I
just want to know who the fuck trolled the Sun and gave them this information. Like, how fun would it be to be somebody who had just enough, like, insider knowledge to get publications like that to listen to you, and then you could just set them up to look like doofuses?
That would be a fun job.
I would just... But
professional troll.
So did they not, like, come out and be like, the Sun was wrong? Or did they just let the episode air with everybody thinking that?
I don't know.
Oh my God. I hope they just let it air and everybody waited the entire time for that to happen and it never happened.
There were also people at the time who thought that Kylie Minogue was going to be the next companion because, there were photo stills and whatever letting people know that she was going to be in this episode. And I think that people figured she's such a big name. Clearly she's going to be the next companion. And then she ends up dying in the episode. But I also think that they might have killed her off so that there was no sort of, ellipsis to her appearance. Like maybe she'll be back. No, she won't be back. Which was actually, it was kind of a bummer because I really liked that character. So when I first saw this, I was like, oh man, now we're never going to see her again.
Yeah, I liked her as well. Like, it's a really hard thing to play a role where you're like wide-eyed and new at things and still like relatable or endearing beyond just being like sort of amusing to watch. Yeah. But she managed to do it, so she was fun.
And we have a review.
Hey!
It is Great Podcast 5 stars by Emmy Lou Pickles from the United States.
Lou Pickles. Love it.
Natasha and Jamie delve into Doctor Who in a way that makes you enjoy each episode even more. They're hilarious and break down the show intelligently, so you're forced to look below the surface during repeat viewings. Thank you.
Guys.
Sometimes we just tear it apart, but thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that. Just moving on. Thanks for the compliment. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this show sometimes isn't the kind of show that lends itself to very deep analysis. Mm-hmm. It wasn't meant to stand up to what we have to do to it. So that's why I kind of urge you to, I wouldn't say like just hang in if I didn't think that there was stuff coming that you would enjoy.
Right. And I'm trying to trust y'all on that because you're not the only one saying that.
I know.
You guys have to understand. You have to, right? You have to understand.
I understand
how this looks to me.
I just, like, if I were ranking the seasons, season 3 would be very low on the list. Okay. Maybe lowest. So, definitely, it's definitely better.
Just leave it. Just leave it.
Yeah.
Because then there is, like, I think it was Miles who said something like, well, the next season is my favorite. And I'm like, don't tell me that either. Because then I'm going to feel like, so it's all downhill now, huh? It's like when people are telling you, and when you go to college, these are the best years of your life, kid. Don't tell me that. I'm fucking 19, man. That's a bummer.
Well, also saying a season is your favorite doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only good one. Or that the other ones aren't good. It's
that's what I'm trying to keep in mind. I'm just saying, guys, beware that you can be meaning something to sound positive and I hear a negative. So just be careful is all I'm saying. Oh, God.
Well, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have new patrons to say hi to. So this week, or 2 weeks? No, this week, we have Sarah Heath, Pirita Lighty, Leah Sandinger, Erica Rickards, Squidward's grumpier cousin.
Oh my.
Samantha, Hannah Sidlowski, Sarah, and Kelly. So welcome to all of you guys. Thank you all so much for pledging. We love you dearly. I hope that you guys are prepared for us to get into Eclipse. We just finished the new Moon movie coverage. That's coming. It's going to be a thing. I recorded on the first 3 chapters yesterday with Miles, and he was angry in a less fun way than he was about the movie.
Aww.
So, but it's all very legitimate, and I have to admit that I came into this project also trying to have, like, to do it in good faith, and I know that there's problematic elements to these books, and I have over the past few years read a couple of, like, think pieces about specific quotes or parts of the plot that are particularly cringy. Mm-hmm. But rereading the first 3 chapters of this book, it's just one after another, after another, after another. When you're reading a think piece and they pull out 3 or 4 paragraphs or quotes, you can sort of tell yourself that there's a lot in between those that's not so terrible. But when it comes down to it, the first 2, it's not quite so bad. There's a lot of moments that aren't great, but the third book is the one where it starts to really become apparent how, like, borderline abusive people are. And it is relentless. And I wasn't ready for it at all. And I was reading it, like, with my mouth hanging open by the time I got to the end of the 3rd chapter because it is so gross. And, so I hope that, if you guys are listening, that you're prepared for the conversation to get kind of serious, because there are some things that are downright alarming to me that they were put out there as goals for young women who are already socialized to be pliant and, do things for men and not think of themselves. It's really upsetting to me, and it also makes me, like, worried about Stephanie Meyer as a person and what she fucking thinks is a healthy romantic relationship.
Well,
so
she's a Mormon.
It's just, like, beyond even, like, gender role stuff. It's just basic behavioral stuff that I'm just, how do you think this is how a human being acts and that this is, like, acceptable, Yeah. Just a lot of moments of me really being shocked anew. And it's just like I turn the page and then it happens right away again. And I'm just like, what? Does anybody act like a person? Spoiler alert, Charlie does. Mostly. He's like the only person in these books. Everybody else is just functioning in a whole other universe.
Well, I haven't listened to your coverage of New Moon yet, the movie, but I did enjoy Miles's little running live blog as he watched it.
Yes.
And his reaction to Michael Sheen was everything I'd hoped for.
Exactly, right? That was the main thing, that I just wanted him to not be spoiled that Michael Sheen was in it. And then, after this, it's fine. But
and then somebody posted a scene from Tron Legacy.
Yes, because I talked about that in the episode. Yes.
Well, I watched that. I've never seen that movie all the way through. I've seen it in bits and pieces. Jason really likes that movie and has watched it quite a bit, but I've never actually sat down and watched it from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So somehow I never saw Michael Sheen in any of the times that I've seen 15 minutes here or there. And so I turned to him and I was like, is there a reason you did not inform me that Michael Sheen was in Tron Legacy with all the times you've watched it? And he's like, oh yeah, he is, huh? And I was like, yeah. Like, if you wanted me to watch it, that's what you had to say. Michael Sheen is in it.
With a fucking cane, in like a white pleather suit.
He's
with his
incredible.
Hair slicked back. Like, it is really something. He is.
It is. He's the most amazing. And I was like, anytime you want me to watch something, if it has Michael Sheen in it, that's it. That's all you have to say, and I will watch it. Done.
I just like that whole thing. It really, you have the impression that everything was filmed separately. There's a fight scene that this is happening in, and it really feels like they filmed the fight scene, and then separately they put Michael Sheen on a little pedestal somewhere, and they just turned on ABBA, and they just let him go to town, and they just filmed that for 15 minutes, and then they took the best 2 minutes out of it and put it together, and then just superimpose that behind the fight scene. Because he's just fucking... When I say prance, I'm not trying to, like, talk about... This, he is the school of silly walks. It is serious. And he is in for the whole kit and caboodle, my friends. He does not half-ass shit.
Did you see that thing I posted where he was defending Twilight fans on Twitter?
No.
He's incredible. I'll look it up. I posted it on my Facebook page, and I'm not even, like, really into Twilight, but I am very into him and how he is like, look, people like what they like, and who are you to say that what they like isn't worthy? He's great.
Yeah, and that's like, because Miles and I talked about that a bit, is that this there is a lot of legitimate criticism of Twilight, like what we talk about and are worried about, genuinely, like, yikes. But for the most part, the criticism that's been lobbed at Twilight has just been, vampires don't sparkle, girls like it, it's stupid. And so I tend to get pretty defensive about it, even though I'm not particularly a big fan. But, you know, there's a tone, and you can feel that. So, good for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say before you wrap?
No.
All right. Well, guys, go check out the most recent Smash Fiction, which features me and Miles on one team. I won't tell you who we're defending, but the matchup is Madame Trunchbull versus Dolores Umbridge. And it's a pretty fun one. And I enjoy arguing a lot, and I think I did pretty well. And I think that you guys should go and check it out. Smash Fiction. Check it. All right. Until next week. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.